The film opens with ominous production logos. A TV faintly glows in a dark, empty room. More studio credits quickly fade into the black screen. A tall radio tower stands against the gloomy twilight sky. A car drives slowly through the thick, eerie fog. Its headlights pierce the deep, unsettling darkness of the night. Inside, a man tells his female companion they've finally arrived. He promises her a wild, unforgettable, and pleasure-filled trip. But she feels incredibly uneasy about coming to Pig Hill. He completely ignores her worries, leaning in much closer. She nervously checks her phone, desperately looking for an escape. Suddenly, a mysterious figure emerges from the heavy, blinding fog. The strange man approaches and violently knocks on their window. The tension builds as the film's bloody title sequence begins. Suddenly, a dark silhouette viciously attacks the man inside. The woman screams in absolute terror as bloody chaos erupts. A horrific pig-masked killer gets uncomfortably close to her face. The fiery title Pig Hill suddenly flashes on the screen. Later, a writer notes down terrifying details about local disappearances. She is determined to uncover the truth about these missing women. Her research reveals horrifying urban legends about mutated pig people. The latest missing victim is described as an ambitious college student. Meanwhile, an eccentric old man casually pays a parking meter. The writer walks past him on a seemingly normal afternoon. He follows her, urgently warning about the rising missing girls. She quickly dismisses the pig people as just stupid, baseless myths. But he insists he actually found a pregnant girl on Pig Hill. She still thinks it's just a harmful rumor he shouldn't spread. Suddenly, an angry local woman loudly confronts the old man. She aggressively chases him away for loitering near her store. The writer goes back to her quiet job at the bookstore. She looks exhausted, deeply burdened by her dark, ongoing research. A man named Chris suddenly walks in carrying a heavy box. He looks around, noting the old place hasn't changed at all. He claims a friend suggested he trade his old books here. Then he casually asks if she is originally from around here. He explains his recent, strange career shift to trading paperbacks. She starts going through the dusty box of books he brought. She notes the weirdly high number of books about Roswell conspiracies. She shares a wild theory about the government hiding Nazi aircrafts. Just then, Chris receives an urgent, very unexpected phone call. He apologizes, saying his mother fell, and rushes out quickly. Evening falls over the quiet, mysterious town and its radio tower. The writer leaves a desperate voicemail for her missing husband, Ben. She walks completely alone down a very dark, deserted street. Unbeknownst to her, a creepy figure lurks in the misty shadows. She suddenly spots a terrifying pig-masked figure, watching her closely. Later, Chris is calmly cooking dinner in a brightly lit kitchen. The writer sits nearby, clearly stressed about her missing husband. She abruptly tells Chris she needs to leave for the shelter. They start arguing fiercely about Ben's sudden, unexplained disappearance. Chris offers to drive her, but she seems highly hesitant. She goes to a dark bedroom to quickly change her clothes. Chris unexpectedly walks in while she is still half-dressed. He awkwardly apologizes for both the rude intrusion and the fight. She demands to know why Ben would just leave her like that. Chris claims he is just exhausted from being caught in the middle. He agrees to pick her up from the women's shelter later. He then turns back and oddly asks if she's been staying clean. To her absolute horror, Chris starts reciting a creepy pig rhyme. He smiles sinisterly, fully aware of the deep fear he's causing. A disturbing board full of missing women clippings is briefly shown. In a flashback, Chris complains to a man at a local bar. He complains that his newly hired blonde bartender has also vanished. He then highly praises the other man's impressive financial wizardry. The other man looks down, seemingly burdened by his past actions. They toast their drinks, but the dark, unspoken tension remains heavy. Someone is briefly seen trapped inside a dirty, claustrophobic cage. At the shelter, the writer talks with another female volunteer. They discuss the potential, lengthy prison time for a man named Steve. The volunteer laughs, finding dark humor in the incredibly grim situation. Suddenly, a heavily pregnant, filthy woman stumbles into the quiet room. The strange woman walks aggressively toward the two shocked volunteers. The writer cautiously asks what she can do to help her now. The pregnant woman shockingly demands an immediate, highly illegal abortion. The writer quickly flips the shelter's front sign from open to closed. She walks very cautiously down a dark, extremely quiet hallway. The atmosphere is incredibly tense as she searches for the frantic woman. She suddenly spots something absolutely horrifying in the bathroom ahead. The pregnant woman is sitting on the floor, bleeding very profusely. She is horrifically trying to perform a self-abortion with a sharp tool. Blood pools heavily around her as she screams in unbearable agony. The writer completely panics, realizing the baby is already coming out. She desperately tries to calm the thrashing, screaming woman down quickly. Finally, a team of medics rushes into the bloody, chaotic bathroom. A female doctor immediately takes firm charge of the terrifying delivery. She urgently works to pull the struggling baby out safely and quickly. The doctor violently yells at the mother to keep breathing through the pain. But the fading mother is losing a catastrophic amount of blood now. The medics utterly panic, realizing she won't ever make it to the hospital. The dying mother frantically grabs the writer's clothes in utter desperation. She aggressively demands that the writer kill the newborn, crying monster. The writer is completely frozen in shock by the horrific, bloody request. Suddenly, the mother's eyes go totally blank as she bleeds to death. Her dark blood slowly washes down the cold, tiled bathroom floor drain. Outside, the writer stands near a waiting ambulance, deeply and completely traumatized. She silently smokes a cigarette to calm her severely shaken, trembling nerves. The eccentric old man suddenly appears from the thick, rolling fog again. He urgently asks if the dead woman just gave birth to a pig baby. She angrily and aggressively tells him to leave her alone right now. A strange old man aggressively issues a stern warning. The brother defensively explains his protective actions. Realizing his harshness, he then apologizes to his sister. She breaks down crying as he tries to comfort her. However, she coldly pushes him away in deep anger. He confusedly begs her to explain her agonizing pain. Without answering, she sluggishly retreats into the dark house. In the dim hallway, he pleads for honest communication. He watches helplessly as she admits finding no comfort. Feeling guilty, he offers a sincere, heartfelt apology. She surprisingly softens, promising a nice dinner tomorrow. Later, she sits alone, staring at a disturbing photograph. She downs a glass of water, fighting lingering anxiety. Exhausted, she finally collapses onto her soft bed. She falls into a deep, uneasy sleep immediately. In her dreams, a blurry figure slowly approaches her. The next day, a mysterious man stares at her. Working her shift, she casually chats with the stranger. He charmingly introduces himself as Andy to her. He acknowledges her marriage but suggests hanging out anyway. She playfully agrees, noting it isn't a terrible sin. She happily mentions the bookstore closing in 10 minutes. With a nod, she neatly organizes books before leaving. She heads out into the dimly lit, quiet bookstore. Unnoticed, a terrifying figure lurks in the store's shadows. At a nearby bar, she enjoys a friendly drink. She ignores a call, joking about her strict brother. When asked about her husband, she hesitantly pauses. She sadly reveals her husband inexplicably vanished one day. Andy offers sincere condolences for the heartbreaking disappearance. She takes another drink, reflecting on her supportive brother. Andy reacts with shock regarding rumors about pig people. She explains writing a book about strange urban legends. Curious, she playfully asks Andy about his past mistakes. She flashes a warm smile, encouraging his hidden secrets. His expression darkens, recalling his successful previous life. She listens with sympathy as he describes losing everything. He admits committing tax evasion destroyed his whole life. Seeking comfort, they order another round of strong shots. They raise their glasses, toasting to terrifying local monsters. Andy takes a sip, noting the cheap liquor's taste. Suddenly, he looks deeply concerned about her current well-being. He urgently reveals security just called about his office. Meanwhile, a chilling bloody message reveals impending, grave danger. A horrifying reflection shows the killer standing right there. She receives a frantic call warning about the intruder. Terrified, she hides in the dark, praying to survive. A massive, ominous silhouette slowly approaches her hiding spot. Sometime later, she sits numbly at a somber funeral. Her overbearing brother whispers he will always protect her. Andy approaches their row, offering a quiet, respectful greeting. Her brother glares at Andy, making him entirely unwelcome. Undeterred, Andy gently offers his support as a friend. He politely asks her hostile brother for a moment. The two men step out into the overcast afternoon. Andy calmly apologizes for intruding on the personal moment. The brother aggressively warns Andy to stay far away. Andy states he understands, having lost his best friend. From a distance, the strange old man watches intently. Later that night, the siblings sit in her office. She fiercely declares she won't leave her own home. Her brother tries explaining complex legal matters regarding money. She dismisses it, knowing it won't fix their tragedy. She sits alone, overwhelmed by her dark, obsessive thoughts. She nervously clutches a mysterious envelope containing vital clues. She fiddles with an object, focusing her racing mind. A towering metal structure looms against the night sky. Thick blood slowly washes down a cold, tiled drain. In sleep, a ghostly voice whispers about bloody troughs. She hallucinates lying surrounded by the terrifying slaughter aftermath. A sickening vision shows grotesque, deformed fetuses linked together. Her brother frantically rushes in, breaking the brutal nightmare. Quiet suburban houses hide dark, unspeakable secrets inside them. Andy sits alone, lost in his own tragic memories. She realizes focusing on sensational myths distracts from reality. She stares at her board, focusing on missing Paula. She questions a detective about a dangerous suspect's warrant. She points out the absolute lack of solid evidence. The detective admits seeing disturbing crime scene infant photos. She studies a photo, feeling she is getting close. A traumatized woman trapped in a cage warns her. She tells her brother she's tired of constant worrying. A terrifying pig mask hangs, symbolizing her consuming obsession. Her brother expresses relief that she is finally clean. They sit together, finding a brief moment of peace. A dark figure stands behind raging, destructive hot flames. A flashback shows a child running on a beach. Andy's frail mother sits confused on the quiet floor. Andy tenderly helps his aging mother onto the couch. She smiles warmly, genuinely happy to see her son. Andy's bitter father coldly states her memory is failing. Andy gently wipes away his mother's confused, sad tears. His father harshly berates him for being completely useless. Defeated, Andy leaves his angry father and confused mother. Later, Carrie and Andy meet to discuss their traumas. He reveals a necklace bearing his late son's initials. Andy looks deeply sorrowful, preparing to share his story. He explains how much his son loved their farm. Carrie listens intently, moved by his profound, shared loss. He tragically reveals his son died in an accident. Andy sorrowfully recounts his son's tragic fate. Carrie listens, deeply moved by his pain. He struggles with the haunting, painful memories. The profound loss clearly overwhelms him completely. Carrie then shares her own desperate investigation. She intends to expose a brutal abuser. Her dangerous target is named Red Davis. She knows he hides on Pig Hill. Andy realizes the extreme danger she faces. He bravely agrees to join her mission. He promises to help find this monster. Together they prepare for the uncertain journey. They drive deep into the eerie fog. The dark isolation surrounds them completely now. They carefully navigate the unseen dirt road. Leaving the car, they brave the darkness. Carrie explains the dark local folklore here. Many women vanished in these treacherous woods. She believes supernatural forces haunt this area. Suddenly, an old man silently emerges nearby. He suspiciously questions their unexpected presence there. Carrie lies about needing gas very quickly. The man offers them strange, unexpected hospitality. He proudly introduces himself as Giovanni Vendetti. He invites them into his secluded property. They cautiously follow him into a barn. Giovanni boasts about his family's pig farm. He claims vast ancient pig breeding wisdom. He easily sees through Carrie's poor lie. They confess they are researching her book. Giovanni sternly questions their reckless, foolish curiosity. He decides to share a bizarre legend. He prepares them for a twisted tale. He generously pours whiskey beginning his story. Andy listens to the unbelievable historical claims. Giovanni dismisses common myths as complete nonsense. He claims the historical truth is darker. He tells them about his ancestor Angelo. Angelo owned a massive, terrifying prize hog. This giant beast was named Ayal Caso. A local girl became deeply, unhealthily obsessed. Their relationship spawned widespread horrific local rumors. Angelo cruelly turned this into a spectacle. They supposedly produced terrifying monstrous pig offspring. Carrie sharply interrupts asking about Red Davis. She fiercely demands to know his location. Giovanni angrily defends Red, blaming Paula entirely. He firmly insists Red is highly respected. Andy realizes the extreme danger they face. He nervously surveys the deeply creepy barn. They quickly decide to leave this place. A menacing figure silently watches them depart. Giovanni glares coldly as they walk away. They cautiously hurry back to their car. They drive away from the unsettling farm. Giovanni silently watches them leave his property. Carrie points out a flashing radio tower. She nervously jokes about aliens signaling home. The intense danger brings them suddenly closer. They share a passionate and unexpected kiss. A masked figure silently watches them nearby. Later, Carrie returns alone to her house. She fondly remembers their highly passionate kiss. Suddenly, an unseen attacker violently grabs her. She is brutally dragged into the darkness. The next morning, Andy wakes up alone. Police arrive urgently at his front door. They grimly inform him Carrie is missing. Andy realizes Red Davis must have her. Carrie wakes up trapped inside a cage. Another captive woman mockingly welcomes her inside. Carrie frantically tries to understand her situation. The woman explains they are held captive. She heavily warns Carrie of brutal rapes. At the station, Andy desperately begs police. He demands they raid Giovanni's pig farm. The detective refuses, lacking any physical evidence. Andy bravely decides to save Carrie alone. He intensely prepares to hunt the monster. Back in the barn, horrific violence continues. Swill roughly drags a victim's mangled body. The grim reality of the slaughterhouse appears. A terrible, lifeless body lies on ground. The other captive smiles with sick fascination. Carrie watches in utterly paralyzing shock now. Andy searches town for anyone knowing Red. He teams up with a brave local. Inside the barn, pure terror rapidly escalates. Carrie frantically searches for an escape route. Swill suddenly shoves a disgusting slop plate. The captive ravenously devours the gross slop. Andy and his ally drive into woods. They confront Giovanni hiding in the dark. They aggressively demand to know Red's location. Giovanni calmly claims Red is a man. He denies supernatural pig monsters took her. He reveals Red runs a demonic pit. Red sacrifices women to appease horrific entities. He hints at terrifying immortal monstrosities nearby. Andy realizes the true scale of danger. Giovanni claims Nephilim roam the earth. He speaks of horrific imprisoned monsters. The men struggle with this prophecy. They finally decide to leave him. Meanwhile, Carrie begs in a cage. A grotesque monster suddenly grabs her. She is dragged away screaming helplessly. The terrified girl lies on the floor. Andy and his crew search the farm. They confront the old man inside. Red presses a blade to his neck. He threatens to slice his throat. Red angrily denies holding the girl. The men viciously strike the captive. He collapses after taking heavy blows. Red stares down with bloody intent. A machete swings down without hesitation. The crew readies their loaded weapons. Carrie remains trapped in pure darkness. A pig monster watches her silently. Its mask hides a terrible secret. She cries desperately in her cage. The old man waits outside anxiously. Carrie senses the beast drawing near. She looks up in sheer terror. She lies helpless and deeply exhausted. The beast forces strange liquid down. Andy now stews in a cell. An old man scans a field. He approaches a lonely red barn. He suddenly stops, looking utterly shocked. Carrie lies unconscious in the grass. He gently tries to wake her. He carries her to the station. She lies weak on the floor. Andy fumes about Red behind bars. Reporters aggressively ambush them outside court. Carrie talks about her lingering nightmares. The therapist tries to comfort her. She explains the trauma-distorted reality. Carrie struggles to accept this answer. She looks away, feeling completely lost. Her boyfriend insists she is safe. He argues fiercely with her brother. The brother worries about her fragility. He tenderly gives her a necklace. She touches it, seeking some comfort. The brother promises to protect her. He walks out, leaving them alone. The therapist suggests a secure shelter. She believes it will aid recovery. Carrie rests uneasily in the shelter. Nightmares of the pig monster return. She opens her eyes in fear. Her boyfriend sneaks into the room. The therapist suddenly interrupts his visit. She questions why he is here. Police eventually investigate the Red Barn. Carrie arrives to face her fears. They step into the dark space. A detective talks about found evidence. Carrie listens with growing dark dread. She cries, overwhelmed by the place. Her boyfriend whispers words of encouragement. She admits her memory remains fragmented. She wishes she could remember everything. He promises the shelter is safe. He insists she doesn't need hypnosis, but she stubbornly refuses his advice. She knows hypnosis is her answer. The therapist finally prepares the session. Carrie nervously watches the pendulum swing. She focuses on the rhythmic motion. The therapist guides her deeply within. A flash of a swinging yo-yo appears. Carrie dives deeper into the trauma. She recalls the crackling hot fire. The pig monster emerges from shadows. She remembers the pure twisted horror. More fragmented flashes flood her mind. Her boyfriend quietly prepares a meal. She remembers him leaning over her. He was the monster all along. The shocking truth fully hits her. The therapist senses the sudden danger. Andy arrives at an ambulance scene. He looks around in total confusion. The therapist urgently calls for help. She commands a complete building lockdown. Carrie stares out into the dark. The pig monster tackles her violently. He aggressively pins her to the floor. The masked killer stalks the hallway. He approaches her locked safe room. Carrie backs away in pure terror. She waits for the inevitable breach. The monster forces his way inside. He brutally tackles her once again. The boyfriend finally unmasks his face. Andy watches the incriminating phone video. Andy finally realizes his friend Carrie is in extreme danger. He sprints toward his police cruiser to try and save her. But her twisted boyfriend suddenly ambushes the arriving cops. He ruthlessly shoots down Andy's innocent partner in cold blood. The killer mercilessly unloads his weapon into the dark street. The dying officer weakly cries out for any help. Carrie slowly regains consciousness in the back of a vehicle. She remembers the horrific truth about the Pig Hill butcher. Staring through the mesh, she feels heavily drugged and trapped. The unmasked killer calmly drives the stolen police cruiser away. She recalls the therapist who tried to warn her earlier. The doctor suspected her boyfriend was deeply manipulating her mind. He had orchestrated the traumatic events to completely break her, framing others so he could play the ultimate savior hero. His sick psychological games isolated her from the entire world, making her completely dependent on him for her own sanity. He boasts about his twisted master plan while driving confidently. Carrie lies helplessly in the dark, listening to his madness. She knows she has to fight back to survive this. The stolen police car speeds through the thick foggy night. They finally arrive at an isolated, creepy house in the woods. The flashing sirens illuminate the horrific destination before them. This is the exact place where the nightmare truly began. The killer roughly drags her out of the stolen vehicle, carrying her unconscious body into the dark, abandoned building. He brings her deep inside his terrifying personal sanctuary. The infamous pig mask represents his dark, violent alter ego. He prepares himself to complete his sick, twisted, bloody fantasy. Carrie lies paralyzed on the dirty, blood-stained floor. He slowly reveals the grim details of his dark past, showing her twisted Polaroids of his previous gruesome murders. He considers himself a savior, cleansing a world of evil, displaying the horrifying trophies of his long, bloody crusade. He leans over her, explaining his twisted sense of justice. His childhood trauma fueled this relentless, psychotic killing spree. The severe abuse he suffered turned him into an absolute monster. He sought revenge against the men who ruined his innocence, transforming his deep pain into a horrific, violent bloodbath. He truly believes he is protecting Carrie from that same darkness. The young innocent boy died long ago inside of him. Now only the brutal psychopathic butcher remains in his place. A dropped flashlight illuminates the grim, terrifying basement room. The rusty cage holds the dark secrets of his past victims. He gently lifts her up, acting like a caring lover, professing his sick, twisted devotion to her horrified face. The mask constantly reminds her of the terrifying monster he is. He claims they are perfectly bound by their shared horrific trauma, demanding she accept his dark and incredibly violent nature. Carrie stares at him, her deep fear slowly turning to rage. She realizes there is absolutely no reasoning with this pure evil. She must play along to find a single desperate opening. He promises to keep her completely safe from the cruel world, demanding she confess her unconditional love to him alone. A sharp broken shard lies unnoticed on the dirty floor. She carefully plots her one and only chance at survival. He stands tall, fully convinced of his absolute mental control, holding her close, thinking he has finally won her over. He gazes upon his captive with sick, obsessive deep affection, believing she will eventually embrace his horrific, bloody lifestyle. He completely lowers his guard, blinded by his own delusion. This fatal mistake gives Carrie the absolute perfect opportunity. She locks eyes with him, masking her true, deadly intentions. Her hand slowly reaches out for the sharp ceramic shard. The memory of the innocent boy completely vanishes from his mind. He leans in closely, expecting a loving, romantic kiss. She stares right through his twisted, psychotic, fragile facade. He kisses her, completely unaware of his impending brutal doom. He suddenly stumbles backward as a vicious counterattack connects. Bleeding profusely, he crawls desperately across the dark room. He collapses on the floor, bleeding from the sudden strike, screaming in pure disbelief as his perfect fantasy completely shatters. Carrie unleashes her fury, striking him down with pure rage. The bloody pig mask lies discarded on the dirty floor. She slowly picks up the terrifying symbol of her torment. Putting on the mask, she officially embraces the darkness within. The horrific legacy of Pig Hill officially claims a new soul. The movie's credits begin to roll over the dark road, leaving the audience with a deeply unsettling and grim conclusion. The tragic tale of Carrie and her horrific survival ends. A masterful blend of horror and deep psychological trauma. The chilling silence at the end was deeply unsettling, reminding everyone of the terrifying journey they just witnessed. The dark cinematography perfectly captured the gloomy, ominous mood, enhancing the tension during every single bloody, violent scene. The haunting musical score added another layer of absolute dread. The terrifying nightmare was finally and definitively put to rest. The story of Pig Hill would definitely live on forever. A terrifying urban legend whispered in the dark woods. The bloody tragic chapter of her life finally closed. But a much darker journey was only just beginning. The horrific secrets were buried away forever in silence. The true identity of the final Pig Hill butcher hidden. The terrible monsters of her past were all destroyed. Yet a new monster had been born that very night. A survivor who learned to completely embrace the absolute darkness. The film left a lasting dark impression on everyone. The screen finally faded to black completely and entirely, leaving the terrified audience alone with their dark eyes.